Mr. Fahad Ali again with a video, and this time the subject is business studies, and we are on chapter 4. In the last video I updated the video on chapter 3, and after the long time, and now I'm uploading a video on chapter 4. The name of the chapter 4 is types of business organization. As you can see on the screens, we have chapter plus summary. This time there is something new. In the end we have a summary of the whole chapter. So starting with the chapter. Okay, sole trader. Sole trader is the most common form of business organization. It is a business owned and operated by just one person. As you all can see on the screens, this is the definition of sole trader. But as far as sole trader is concerned, I always ask my students to write down it is a one-man show. One-man show means that the only person responsible for the business is an individual person. And as far as these things are concerned, either individual persons, partners, or these things, these all things are according to the law. In the eyes of law, the law will see that only the one person is the owner. For example, I am starting a business with my brother, and I have informally agreed with my brother that we both will manage the business. But in the documentation, there will be a name of one person only. So the one person will be the owner, either me or my brother. So informally we can do anything, but as far as law is concerned, there will only be one owner. So that's why the chapter is saying sole trader. It is business owned and operated by just one person. Now going to the advantages. Few rules and regulations, because there are less rules and regulations as it is a small business. As you all can observe, there are some shops, some small businesses around you in your areas, in your neighborhood. So you all can see that those shops are regularly open, regularly closed. After some time you might have seen that the shops have closed, that the new shops have opened after some time. So there is a trend, and it is easy. That's why people are opening more shops and they are closing the earlier ones, because they are observing that they are not getting the profit that they were expecting. The second is independence, as he is his own boss. As far as this point is concerned, I would see independence as he or she is his own boss, as it can either be a girl or a boy, so depends. So independence means that the decision making will be on my part. I will make the whole decisions of each and everything. The decision making will be from my point of view. As I am the owner, then I will be making majority of the decision. That is, almost every decision will be made by me. The third point is freedom to choose his own holidays. As I said that there is a freedom, independence in decision making. So I have a freedom to choose my own holidays, my own hours of working, and my prices to be charged for the goods and services I provide, and the number of employees I want to employ in my business. So these all things are decided by me, and I will take these type of decisions. Then we have disadvantages. The biggest disadvantage is no one to discuss matters with. As for example, as I am the sole owner of the business, then I have no one to discuss the matters. So this is the biggest disadvantage. The second is unlimited liability. Liability is the financial obligation to be settled in future time period. It is the accounting term, liability. It is an financial obligation to be settled in future time period. So when we are saying that unlimited liability, that is, if for example I as a sole trader take any sort of loan from my creditors, from my suppliers, so I will have to pay them until and unless the full amount has been repaid to the person. For example, I have taken loan of 3 lakhs, and after selling my business the suppliers could recover 2,50,000. then I have to pay the remaining 50,000 from my own pocket. So that's why it is saying unlimited liability. That is, the liability is not limited to the amount invested into the business. It is unlimited. That is, suppliers will look into the matter and see that how much they can recover from the business, and after recovering from the business, if there is anything remaining, then they will approach me and they will say that you have to pay this amount, and they can make me liable in the court too. Then the third point is unincorporated businesses. Any business which is seen by law, I am repeating my words. A business in the eyes of law is separate from an individual is not separate from his business. That is, the law is considering that the business and the person both are the same things. So that's why in the earlier point, in the second disadvantage, we said unlimited liability, because the suppliers are thinking, the law is thinking that the owner and the business both are same thing. So that's why they are asking the owner to pay the remaining amount, and that's proven in the third point. It is said unincorporated businesses, that is the shop and the shop owner, both are the same things, both are same in the eyes of law, they are not separate. And the last point is, if the owner is ill, then no one can take control. So it is very difficult. If the owner is ill, then sometimes we see that the shops are closed, and we see that there is no one in order to control the shop. Now we have partnership. When we have 2 or more partners agree to work together, usually this is 2 to 20 limited, but these partnership laws and these things depend and vary according to the country law. So there is a debate on this, so we cannot say exactly, but usually it is 2 till 20. Then we have a partnership agreement, a written or verbal agreement between partners. Advantages, as you all can think, that more capital can now be invested because there are more people to invest in the business. The second is the task will be divided between partners. As there are more people, then there will be shared responsibility between those peoples. Then the third is both partners will be motivated because they will get a share of profit. As they both will be working hard, then they will be expecting a reward, so this will keep motivating them again and again, so that they can keep on working hard. The disadvantages are unlimited liability, as same as the sole trader, as I explained earlier, that the liability is not limited to the amount invested. The partners will have to pay the suppliers from their pocket if the supplier is not able to recover the amount by selling the business. The second is unincorporated businesses, as earlier I explained, that the law is thinking that the business and the partners both are same things, so there is no differentiation between both of these. Then the third is partners can disagree on any decision. This is more or less obvious, that if there are more than one people, then there will be some sort of disagreements. Then the last is most countries limit partners to 20, so it means a limited amount of capital can be invested. This is more or less obvious, that the 20 people can invest into the business to a limit. So there is a limit on the partners. So if there is a limit on the partners, then there is a limit on the investment that can be made. Then we have sole trader rules and regulations. The owner must register with signed annual accounts to the government tax office. The name of the business is significant. In some countries, that name must be registered with the registrar of business name. As I said earlier, that there are certain rules and regulations which differ from country to country. And the last is, in some industries, the sole trader must observe laws which apply to all firms in that industry. So this varies country to country, but generally we are learning Cambridge examinations, so we can write down these rules. These are in the book. Then we have incorporated businesses. We study that there is a disadvantage of sole trader and partnership, that they are unincorporated businesses. And then we have to understand what are incorporated. Incorporated companies that have separate legal status from their owners. As I said earlier, that unincorporated businesses are those businesses which are not separate from their businesses. The individual and the businesses are both the same things in the eyes of law. So incorporated are those which are the company and the shareholders, and the persons who are buying the shares and those who are running, they both are separate. Shareholders are owners of a limited company. They buy a share. A share is a piece of paper which ensures that you have invested some sort of amount in the company. And last, we have a definition of limited liability. The liability debt of the investor is limited to the amount invested. As I said earlier, unlimited liability, when the supplier is not able to recover the amount by selling the business, then the supplier will approach you and will ask you to pay the remaining amount from your pocket. As the companies have limited liability, so the liability, the debt, the amount we have to pay of the investor is limited to the amount invested. That is in extreme cases, the investor, the shareholder, will only lose the amount that he or she has invested in the company. So this is some sort of advantage of the companies. Then we have private limited companies. A company is a separate legal unit from its owner. This means that the company exists separately from the owners and will continue to exist if one of the owners die. This is a disadvantage of partnership and sole trader too. If one of the partners die, then the business will end, and the sole trader dies, then the business will end. This is the disadvantage of sole trader and partnership. But as far as private limited companies and the companies are concerned, the business will continue to exist. The second is, a company can make contracts or legal agreements. How? My law considers the company and the owners, they both are different things. So when I will be making any law, then the law will be made in the name of the company. For example, I have Hussain and Co company. So I will make the agreement in the name of Hussain and Co company. I will not use my personal name because I and the business both are separate things. The third is company accounts are kept separate from the accounts of the owner. If these both are separate in the eyes of law, then these both things will be kept separate. Then the last is companies are jointly owned by the people who have invested in the business. Shareholders appoint directors to run the business, and in private limited companies, the directors are usually the most important persons. This will be explained in the divorce between ownership and control. So ignore this point. I will explain it later in this video. Okay, we have the advantages. Shares can be sold to a number of people. In private limited company, we can only sell shares to the family, relatives and close friends, those who are in our close circle. The second is all shareholders have a limited liability. As I explained what is limited liability, so you must be clear with the concept. The people who start the company are able to control it as long as they do not sell too many shares. If I sell too many shares, then I will lose the ownership in the company. Then disadvantages. There are significant legal matters which are to be dealt with before a company can be formed. Obviously, a company is a big thing in the eyes of law. So there are certain rules and regulations. The two important documents which are to be sent are Articles of Association and Memorandum of Association, AOA and MOA. The Articles of Association gives the rules and the rights and duties of directors. In addition to this, the Articles of Association gives how the directors will be elected, the rules regarding the election of directors, and how the meetings should be held, that is the annual general meeting, the official meetings, and how the shares would be issued. We can refer to Articles of Association for all of these things which I said now. And as far as Memorandum of Association is concerned, this contains very important information about the company and the directors. Memorandum of Association considers the official name of the company, the address of the registered offices where the company is, and the objectives of the company. With these three things, we have the number of shares bought by the directors. A student asked me, sir, if the director is selling shares or buying new shares, will the documents be changed? Will the documents be changed? So as far as this answer is concerned, the documents will not be changed again and again, because if we would change document, then this will keep the document, this will make the document less updated. So this also depends on the laws of country, vary according to the country to country laws. So we will not face any sort of question on this. The shares cannot be sold or transferred back to anyone without the agreement of other shareholders. As private limited company is a small company, so we have to get the agreement of all other shareholders in order to sell the shares. The accounts of the company are less secret. Company cannot offer shares to general public. As the last disadvantage is concerned, private limited company cannot sell shares to the general public. So this is a bigger disadvantage, and this disadvantage is catered by public limited company, as this is solvent public limited company. Now we have public limited company. A public limited company can sell shares to general public, but public limited companies are in private sector. Remember, keep this in mind. I have seen many past papers and the examiner reports where the examiner is saying again and again that the students make this mistake. They refer to the name is public limited company, and they say that the company is in public sector. This is not the case. The company is in the private sector. So please keep up with these details, and remind yourself that these all organizations which we have studied in the types of organization in chapter 4, these all are private sector organization. There is only one thing regarding public sector, that is public corporations, which we will study at the end of the video. Now we have advantages. Limited liability. As you all know, what is limited liability? In corporate businesses, the business and the owners both are different things in the eyes of law. Large capital sums, and as you all can see, there are more number of people who can buy shares and sell shares, so there will be more investments. No restriction on buying, selling and transfer of shares. As this is public limited company, so this is a large company, so we cannot have any restriction on buying, selling or transfer of shares. There is high status. As I can recall an example of Facebook. Facebook is a public limited company, so you can say that Facebook is a high level organization. It has a high status, so this is an advantage. The disadvantage is legal formalities, more rules, regulations and controls, difficult to control and manage. Selling shares to the public is expensive. Sometimes we have, if we want to sell shares, then we have to issue the shares to the public. If the issuing cost of the shares is very high, so that's why it is saying it is expensive. Original owners might lose control if they sell the shares. For example, I am the original owner and I have 10 shares. If I sell the 10 shares, then I have sold my ownership of the company. If I have sold my ownership of the company, then I will lose the control of the company. Then the main concept, diverse between ownership and control. Usually the public limited company have many shareholders and shareholders are owners of the company, so it becomes difficult to run the company by owners. As you all can see that there are many shareholders in the company, in the public limited company, so we cannot ask every shareholder to control the company, run the company, because it will be very difficult. They are far away from each other and they will have their own mindset, they will have different decisions according to their wishes, so it will be very difficult. So those shareholders appoint the directors in the annual general meeting and they say that we will give you the charge to control the company, and those directors will be a panel of directors, that is 5 to 6 directors, depends on the laws and depends on the company. So those directors will be given the responsibility to control and run the company, and the directors will be made accountable in the annual general meeting that how they have run the company for the whole year, where are the accounts, what are the profits, and these all things. So this is called diverse between ownership and control. The owners are the shareholders because they have bought a share in the company, and the persons who are controlling the company are the directors. So that's why it is saying diverse between ownership and control. Then we have franchise, a business system where entrepreneurs buy the right to use the name, logo and product of an existing business. For example, I have a business, my business is, for example, V Limited. My business name is V Limited. Sorry, V franchise, and I am selling something. I am selling mobile phones, and my business is very successful business. Any person, any student approached me and said that, sir, I want to use your name. So how can I use my name? And I want to open a branch in my area. So he will be opening that branch and he will be taking my name, using my name as a brand. So if he is using my name, then I will have to give him the right. The person who is giving the right to the person who is asking for the right, the person who is giving the right is a franchisor who has already established his business, and now he is giving the right to another person to run his business with the name of the previous business, that is my business. And the person who is taking the rights will be called franchisee. Franchisee is a person who will be taking the rights to run the business which is already existing. McDonald's is the biggest example for franchise, as McDonald's have expanded in every country, almost every country. So the reason is that everyone purchased the rights and they opened the branch there, and they have to pay the fees or royalty for whatever they have to pay in a year. So they have opened the branch with the name of McDonald's. So this is very good expansion. Franchise is a very good business. Then we have less risk. Sorry, there is an error in the spelling. Advantages: less risk, LESS, less risk of business failure as product is already established in market. That's the biggest advantage. That's why people approach those businesses who are already established in order to avoid the risk. The second is franchisor often provides advices and trainings. The franchisor, the one who is giving the rights, will provide the advices and trainings. The third is franchisor would finance the promotion of the brand. Sorry, it is not brand, it is brand. So the franchisor, the one who is giving the rights, will finance the promotion of the business, obviously, because the business is his own business. The last is franchisor will have checked the quality of suppliers. The suppliers would be suggested by the franchisor to the franchisee, and he will check the quality of supplies it is not suppliers, sorry, it is the supplies. So it will check the quality of supplies so that there must not be anything which might be disturbing or which might reduce the quality of the product. Then we have disadvantage of franchise. Initial cost of buying franchise is very expensive. So this is a fact. Franchisor will take a percentage of revenue or profit. As I said, the technical terms for this is royalty. The third is there are very strict controls over franchisee, that is what is allowed, what is not allowed. The last is franchisee will pay for any local promotion they decide to do. So this is very much obvious. If they are deciding to do any sort of local promotion, then they have to pay. These are the examples. The funniest example of McDonald's, as you can see, and the second example is Starbucks coffee, that is also a franchise. Now we have joint ventures. Two or more businesses agree to work together on a project and set up a separate business for this purpose. For example, I and another business, they both merged together and they decided to work on a project. So there are advantages. It reduces the risk for each business and cuts cost, because we both will be pooling our resources. We both will be sharing costs, so that's why it is reducing risk and cutting cost. Each business brings different expertise to the joint venture, because these both businesses will have different expertise, so they will bring some sort of expertise to the joint venture. Market and product knowledge can be shared to benefit the business. This is very much obvious. Disadvantages of joint venture: any mistake made will damage the reputation of all firms in the joint venture. This is obvious that there are two firms, and any firm who will not work according to the expectations, so that will damage the reputation of both the firms. Then we have second, the businesses may have different business cultures or styles of leadership. Decision making will become difficult because of the different styles of leadership and different cultures. The examples of joint ventures: BMW and Toyota. BMW and Toyota worked on a project in order to reduce the CO2 emission in the cars. We have another Renault and Nissan. They worked on some sort of project, so they both pooled their resources in order to work on a project. That was a joint venture by both of these companies. Last, we have public corporation, a business organization that is owned and controlled by the state. For example, in technical terms, I would say it is nationalization. Earlier, a business was a private business. Then after some time, the government purchased that business, keeping in mind something. They thought that it is more important to make the business the government owned business, so that's why the government purchased the business. Those businesses who were previously private businesses, and now they have been purchased by the government, so they will be called public corporations. The features are owned and controlled by state, very much obvious, because those are public corporation, and these are in the public sector. They are financed mainly through taxation. Obviously, the government earns from the taxpayers. So the third is they have social objectives. In many countries, the government always have always an objective of social welfare. So they have social objectives. The last is services of public corporation is often provided free or at low cost. The government always try to extend their services, so they will provide it free or at low cost. Now we have public limited company and private limited company and public limited company similarities. Legal document including articles of association, memorandum of association. In one company the documents are made, in another company the documents are not made. The second is shareholders invest their capital by purchasing shares. So this is very much obvious that the shareholders invest their capital by purchasing shares. So these are similarities. Both companies have shareholders and they purchase. Ordinary shareholders are owners. Ordinary shareholders, this is a technical term, those which I will not explain because this is very much technical term. Ordinary shareholders are those shareholders, I will give you a brief idea, those shareholders who will get a return at each and every cost. Who will get a return when there are profits left after the preference shareholders are given the profits. So this is there are two type of shareholders: ordinary and preference shareholder. Ordinary are the owners. Shareholders have limited liability. This is both similar in both the companies. Businesses continue even if one of the owners die. This is similarities. Companies can raise finance by selling shares. This is similar in both companies. Profit is given to the shareholders as dividends, and shareholders. And the last point is shareholders vote on majority decisions. This is very much obvious in both the companies. They vote on majority of the decisions taken by the company. Then we have risk ownership and limited liability. As you can all be, you will all be familiar with the sole trader. The risk is carried by the sole owner. Ownership one person. Limited liability no. Partnership. The risk is carried by all partners. Several partners have ownership, and we have limited liability. No, we don't have limited liability. The private limited companies risk is shareholders up to their original investment. As I said that we have limited liability. The ownership is shareholders, maybe few or many, but shares cannot be sold to the general public, as you all know. The limited liability is, yes, we have a limited liability in private limited company. Public limited company, shareholders up to the original investment, they have the risk. And ownership, there are millions of shareholders, and as far as limited liability is concerned, so we will say that yes, the public limited company also has limited liability. Then after this we have the summary. As you all can go through the summary, we have partnership, public limited company, private limited company, franchise, sole trader, but ignore the cooperatives part, that is not in O-level syllabus. So this is an additional thing in the picture. Except this, everything is fine. In the last, I would say thanks for watching. like the video, comment below if you have any question, any queries, any problems. Share it with those who are taking up business studies in O-levels, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed. Don't forget to press the bell icon. Fahad Ali Commerce Faculty. Thank you for watching.